Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sheepdog Project. As always, brought to you by Sheepdog Response. Go to sheepdogresponse.com and check us out. We have upcoming courses, September 21st through 23rd. We're going to be in Hoffman, North Carolina. We are going to be in Palm Bay, Florida, October 8th through the 11th. And we're going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, the week before SHOT Show, January 14th through January 20th. Well, this is the show a lot of you have been asking me for, especially after we did a show with my good friend, Dr. Drew Wingy. We talked about supplements. Everybody's like, hey, the supplement show is great, but you need to talk about nutrition. And I deliberately put this off because I wanted to get the renowned expert in here to really talk about this. Author, coach, trainer, four-time best trainer in MMA. Is that right, Mike?
Yes. Four-time
World Trainer of the Year. Yeah, sorry, I got the title wrong. Four-time World Trainer of the Year. Also coached me to the championship on the UFC 2 game, so I got to give him credit for that. So I actually feel like,
and that matters too.
Yeah, that matters, and I feel like I know you for that. I feel like you've been in my corner all along. So Mike Dolce is with me today. So thank you so much for coming on the Sheepdog Project.
Absolutely, Doc. Thank you so much for having me on. Enjoy being here. Looking forward to chat.
Yeah, and I'm going to be taking notes too, because a lot of these, very selfishly, I didn't ask for viewer questions. A lot of these are going to be things specifically that I want to know.
I love it. The power, right? The power of the mic.
Yeah, the power. I'm in charge here. I get to ask the questions that I want. If they want to ask their own, they can get their own show. First and foremost, just jumping right in. So not even talking about performance athletes, but just about people in general. When you think about people and what people are putting in their bodies as fuel, what do you think the biggest problem is out there? Do you think it's too many calories, the wrong kinds of calories, or both?
It's both. But to drill deeper, it's the habits that the current human population has established is very weak, and it's very unaccountable. So the fuel, you use the appropriate term, the fuel. So the fuel that the average human is consuming has nothing to do with fuel. It has only to do with an emotional satisfaction. There's this emotional, powerful, weepy, sad, depressed relationship with food for the vast majority of the global population. I say that because obesity and eating disorders and lifestyle-related disease is all at the highest it's ever been, direct correlation to food consumption.
Right.
Everyone listening right now knows better. Everybody listening, so don't give me am I allowed to curse on this show?
Oh, absolutely. You can say whatever you want.
Everybody listening right now, they fucking know what they should not be eating, yet they eat it anyway, and they blame it on their boss, they blame it on their girl, they blame it on their transmission, they blame it on something else. So really, we kind of get away, and we used to say, don't count calories, make calories count. We still say that and all that fun stuff, because that's the truth. The quality of nutrition matters much more than calories. We can break that down. We can get into the biochemistry of it down the road. But the first answer is it has nothing to do with calories. It has nothing to do with quality. It has only to do with habits and the decisions that we make in our day. From there, once we accept accountability for the decisions, then we can start filling in with the quinoa and the flax seeds and the coconut oil and all the other stuff.
It's almost as if now that we're living in a time of plenty, and instead of eating to live, a lot of people are living to eat. And we have entire television networks dedicated to what we put into our bodies. I always thought it was funny, if you ever saw it, and you've probably seen it, Mike, the documentary on Dustin Poirier, and it shows him cutting weight and watching the Food Network.
Yeah,
like he's deliberately torturing himself. He's eating. It's like some type of cube of protein. I don't remember what it is, and he's watching him make desserts. But we become obsessed, and things that we wouldn't have dreamed of putting into our bodies 1,000 years ago, and our bodies have not changed essentially in those 1,000 years. We now have the capacity through agribusiness, through technology, through GMOs, and through everything else that now, and commercialization, that we're putting these things in our bodies. And everything, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, hyperlipidemia, all the associated problems that go along with that, as well as all the inflammatory and autoimmune stuff that we see from gluten, from complex grains, from GMO foods and everything else. It's so on the rise right now. But at the end of the day, I think you hit on the most important point, that it doesn't matter what's out there, because at the end of the day, if we're each accountable and we decide what we put into our bodies, then that's what's important.
And that's it. That's step one. Without that first step, none of it matters. And I've written the best meal plans for certain people, and it didn't do anything because they didn't do anything. They didn't go about changing their habits and changing their lifestyle and rearranging their goals. They didn't do any of that. They got a piece of paper, a digital document, they stared at it, and they went out with their buddies and had drinks and wings and pizza and burgers and beer, and 3 days later they forgot they even paid me for a program. So, and then somebody will listen to my podcast for free. They'll hear one kernel of truth that will bring about a positive change in their life. They won't buy a thing from me. And 6 months later, they'll tell me that they lost 40, 60, 80, 100 pounds, won their MMA competition, or reversed their own, medical condition that was starting to develop. And it's habitual, and that's really the first step. And over the last 2 years or so of our business, we've really focused on the psychology and the habits that create the issues that we have earlier in the career. Obviously, elite sports performance, getting our athletes across that finish line first, leaner, stronger, faster, more conditioned, more injury resilient. So we've been there, done that. That's almost old hat now, to the next level, the red belt level, which is educating down into the habits. And those listening, and when I speak now, I really try and make that powerful, or that message pronounced, because right now, the very next decision we make will change your life forever. So the next sip of soda or sip of water, the next puff of a cigarette or xylitol chewing gum, the next grilled chicken with white rice and steamed asparagus, or McDonald's drive-thru. The next decision. That's all that matters.
Right.
So it's not the macros, it's not the keto, it's not all the highfalutin sucralose-laden supplements. It has nothing to do with that crap. And I sell some of that crap, not the synthetic chemical crap, but I'm in that business, right, the health and fitness business, and I'm telling you, you shouldn't be consuming any of that, buying any of that, until you first made the decision to start making better decisions. That's it. Start there, and within 6 months, everything about life, no matter who it is, everything about that human's life will be dramatically changed, unrecognizable in such a short period of time. It's like becoming a billionaire in 6 months. If that were possible on the financial side, it's possible. And because you've seen it on the physical side, on the health side.
Health-wise, you can, and the difference between rich and poor on the health side is not as disparate as people think that it is, and you can make a transformation like that. And for exactly the reason that you've outlined, which is whether I become rich or poor in a financial sense doesn't just depend on me. It depends on the market. It depends on how I'm doing it. But in a health sense, it really does just depend on me. Nobody's coming in and holding a gun to my head and forcing me to eat Krispy Kreme. When I walk out of the room, somebody's not sabotaging my work, because my work goes everywhere with me. So I'm going to start at kind of a top-down approach, and if it's off, tell me I'm full of shit. Tell me I'm off, and we'll reroute. But if I were looking at this from the point of view, because this is a question I get asked a lot, is how many calories a day should a person eat?
Okay.
Do you think that's a question even worth answering? Is there an answer to it?
It is, because the more data, the better. And I'm the business of data, of analyzing data. If you can measure it, you can improve it. And so we're constantly measuring and remeasuring, always. The nature of what we do is applying the scientific method thousands of times per client, per project, per day, per thought process. That's all we do. Calories matter, but they don't matter to the point that people think. Calories is like your VO2 max. The calories is just representative of where you currently are. and I don't want to confuse the conversation and get too deep. So, but I want to give people quick takeaways. In order to get your calories, what we found, there's something that's known as the Harris-Benedict equation. That's an excellent way to estimate your total caloric need as far as what we call the BMR, the basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories your body burns at rest. Mm-hmm. What we simply do, and here's the easy hack, take your body weight and add a 0 to the back of it. If you weigh 200 pounds, you need 2,000 calories per day to stay alive. Oddly, that hack is very close to the Harris-Benedict equation, which is one of the 2 or 3 most agreed upon representatives of calorie need. And Doc, nobody knows because it's never been done. Nobody actually knows how many calories specifically. We only know generally because there's so many cofactors in that conversation.
Yeah, activity, body type,
pounds,
everything else.
Everything. Yeah. Your mood, your emotional state. I mean, is it winter? Is it summertime? Mm-hmm. Do you have AC in your house? Or we can really break it down and get specific. Nobody, and that doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it. So if Joe weighs 200 pounds, Joe needs 2,000 calories per day to stay alive. Mm-hmm. If Joe's working an average basic job, he's working but not too hard. He's a student. We had 300 to 500 calories per day for average lifestyle. If you're swinging the hammer, building houses, probably need to double that, go into 500 to 1,000 extra calories. If you're in the gym, training, exercising, an extra 400 calories if you're training like a wrestler or, a hardcore mixed martial artist, probably pushing closer to 8 to 1,200. We make it real easy. Let's say 500 multiples. You need 2,000 calories a day, 500 calories for your job and your lifestyle, another 500 calories because you're training pretty hard, purple belt level. You're not, Mirko Cro Cop. Mm-hmm. That's simple. Joe needs 3,000 calories per day. And then in 3 days, Joe, 3 to 10 days, if you look a little softer, well, let's back off 10%. Mm-hmm. If your body's changing, doing it, you're looking a little harder, getting a little more vascular, your strength is up, we don't change anything. Mm-hmm. Real simple. You don't need to sit at the computer to do that. That's an easy takeaway for everybody listening. And I know you have a bunch of questions, so I'll stop there.
No, that's great because simple is better, and simple is what I'm a knuckle dragger. In spite of the letters after my name, I am a knuckle dragger, and I like it. I like it simple. So when we're talking about those, and we all know that the food pyramid was driven by, and I can hear the angst in your voice. It was driven.
Already, yeah.
It's driven by agribusiness. It has nothing to do with health. It has nothing to do with a human body's basic metabolic needs. When you're talking about, let's stick with that number of 3,000 calories. When you're talking about breaking down those 3,000 calories into proteins, carbohydrates, everything else, how do you generally break it down?
So the 3,000 calories, that is a fluid number. That number will change on the day. So right now, it's an estimate, it's an average, it's a starting point. Mm-hmm. As we drill down deeper together, then we'll get much more specifically. Maybe it's 2,200, maybe it's 3,800. We're starting around 3,000. Right. The next step we look to do is we look to fix the general protein intake. 0.8 to 1.0 grams of protein, and we'll say per pound of relatively lean body weight, because here in the United States, we don't do kilos. Mm-hmm. Most of the math is based upon kilos. Right. Kilos confuses Americans. We found, let's talk about pounds. Mm-hmm. Basically, I need 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of total body weight. Joe weighs 200 pounds. Joe needs about 200 grams of protein per day, maybe 160, maybe up to 240. Mm-hmm. It's about 200. And again, that number is now fluid. That might change. It's hypertraining phase, is the endurance phase, is the, deload phase. All that's another layer, right? There's so many layers to this. And we're just giving, again, takeaways for everybody. So we look at the protein, we fix that, and we'll always say, well, it's about 3,000 calories a day. You need about 1 gram of protein per pound of total body weight to start. And remember, we'll start evaluating every 3 days or so. Mm-hmm. We have a system in order to do that. 200 grams of protein per day, 200 grams of protein is 800 total calories. That leaves us with 2,200 total calories to consume. Mm-hmm. Carbohydrates, there's more flex typically in the carbs. We typically stay between, for Joe, we'll keep talking about Joe, it's going to be not that far off to start from the protein requirement. We'll say about 150 to 300 grams of protein per day.
Okay.
150 being more of the low moderate days, 200 to 250 being more of the moderate high days, and then 300 being a refeed day.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often, we might take Joe down sub 150, down to 50 or so.
Mm-hmm.
We never go zero carb, very low carb. We don't do keto, and we can talk about that if you have the time for it. We keep some sort of healthy carbohydrate in, and the rest we typically make up in fat. Now, the fat and carbohydrate will dance with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the more carbs we take in, the less fat we take in, and vice versa. So from there, we start to back into that 3,000 total calorie intake,
Mm-hmm.
but that day might be higher. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or that week or that cycle, during hardcore strength training cycles with some of our power lifters and CrossFitters,
Mm-hmm.
we're going up over 2 grams of protein per pound of relatively lean body weight per day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doubles the total calorie intake from protein, so things start to change pretty quick.
Okay. Now, when you talk about, you talked about the fats, and you talked about the kind of the carb, adjusting the carbs down as the fats are dialed up a little bit. Is that because we know when our system sees carbs, it makes insulin, it becomes anabolic, it goes into storage mode. Is that because if we have high carbs and high fat, we're basically storing fat?
It's more because we're trying not to hit that surplus. So when our carbs go up, we see carbs as fuel,
Mm-hmm.
little buckets of fuel. That's what we see carbohydrates as.
Mm-hmm.
Proteins and fats we see as raw materials, building blocks for the structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are essential fats. There is essential amino acids through specific proteins.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't necessarily essential carbohydrates.
Right.
But carbohydrates are necessary to optimally perform as a human. Whether you're a librarian that does Tai Chi, or you are Brock Lesnar who lives that type of lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
we need carbohydrate, and that's where the whole keto conversation, tends to blur out and confuse a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the carbohydrates do have an impact, a dramatic impact on insulin, but as does protein.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where a lot of people don't understand that certain protein foods have a higher insulinogenic response than certain carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the carbohydrates that we choose have a lower response or a lower impact on insulin secretion, insulin production.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually control your insulin better through certain type of carbohydrates. Timing certainly matters, of course, then certain type of protein and fat sources.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where there's layers. There's so many layers to this conversation. That's why calories don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, if you're taking in 3,000 calories per day, but you're shooting insulin all over the place,
Right.
well, you're going to be fat and sluggish and sick. If you're taking in 3,000 calories, but all in trans fats,
Mm-hmm.
well, shit, you're going to explode. Unfortunately, in a shorter period of time. So there's again so many layers to it. I think I kind of got off a little topic on that question.
No, that was great. And I know as somebody who and I metabolically am somebody who can shift into ketosis very easily. And
Okay.
it's actually a couple times in my life, it's been a very efficient way for me to manage my weight is by being ketogenic in my diet. But I do see a lot in what you're saying as far as not pushing carbs away completely, but evaluating. We used to use the words good carbs and bad carbs a little bit more and talk about glycemic index. And I think because people have embraced ketogenic diets and things like the carnivore diet, which I would love to hear your opinion on as well, we've gotten away from that phraseology a little bit. But I know when I eat, obviously you feel better when you have some carbs. Metabolically, that's, for people who understand the Krebs cycle, as I know you do, that is how you're going to efficiently fuel yourself. And you do that funny feeling that you feel when you shift into ketosis. That's there for a reason. That's your body telling you, hey, you're doing stuff a little bit. You're going off label here. So I see a lot of value in that. And that's, I know in the documentary film Fed Up, it gives a great example of whether you're eating a spoonful of sugar versus the same amount of carbohydrates in a handful of almonds. And almonds are actually one of my favorite snack foods. And they're not without carbs, but they're more time release carbs. They're not a big insulin spike, a big carbohydrate spike. I feel pretty good for 10 minutes and now I feel like crap again. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss when they're trying to negotiate this from a dietary standpoint.
I'll use this analogy. It'll probably work well with you. And we can use it in two different ways. So you're a military man.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine going onto the battlefield with only your sidearm, only one weapon, no choice of any others?
Right. No, you couldn't do it.
So in the operating room, you can only have a scalpel. You can't bring any other tools with you.
Right.
There's specific tools, there's specific fuel that is necessary to perform specific tasks optimally. Glucose is one of those very specific fuel sources that you want to have. Now, do you have to be spilled over? No, of course not. Should you be topped off at 100%? Depends on what your focus is. Can you be walking around at 60 to 80% of glycogen stores, readily available glucose for glycolytic activity? Yeah, I want that. I want to have that. I want my athletes to have that. I want my librarians to have that. We're also very efficient when we operate aerobically, when we are burning stored body fat as the primary fuel source, and we train that at specific times, and we use different forms of fasting and specific types of exercise while fasting to mimic what we believe is an even greater fat-burning effect than following one of these hardcore ketogenic diets. And when I say ketogenic diet, I say a diet that will actually get you into the metabolic state of ketosis. Now, I'm kind of, known as the anti-keto guy, but that's without context. Because what I am is I'm quick to point out that most ketogenic diets do not achieve the metabolic state of ketosis in the individual. Therefore, the individual is seeing benefits simply due to controlling carbohydrates and reducing carbohydrates or creating carbohydrate awareness and avoiding processed carbohydrate. When that individual who has not attained the metabolic state of ketosis sees benefit, it's not because of a ketogenic diet. It's because they're now eating a more carbohydrate-controlled diet. They have not gotten their carbohydrates low enough, or they're simply not biochemically made in that moment or capable in that moment to achieve and maintain ketosis, which is where you must hit in order for the benefits of ketosis to become real. So, and within that conversation, I tend to lose a lot of people. So I'm trying to find better ways to explain it, because then I just get pigeonholed as, oh, you hate keto. What about the 12-year-olds with cancer, Dolce? What are you talking? That's not what we're talking about. So many people in the industry, they create this straw man argument, as you're aware. And I just want people to know, if you're throwing a jab, it's a jab that's landing. It's not a right hook. It's not a cross. It's not an overhand. Know what it is. There's a ketogenic diet. There's the very low carbohydrate diet. There's a low carbohydrate, a moderate carbohydrate, a high carb. There's carb cycles. There's so many different versions. It's like jujitsu or sambo or catch as catch can. It's completely different rule set. So, that's kind of the feeling on that deeper conversation.
Do you have, when you're advising somebody, not just about their overall intake, but, and this is something that comes up a lot, and I've seen even among professional athletes who have a system, carbs early in the day versus carbs late in the day versus it doesn't matter. Do you have an opinion on that?
We do. And it really depends on the individual. It depends on their tolerance to carbohydrates. It also depends on their insulin response to carbohydrate consumption. Now, the glycemic index, most people just rely on the glycemic index, not understanding that a high glycemic food might not have a high insulin output. so there's two different systems to look at. We pay attention to that. We also look at the style of training and the goal set.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need stored glycogen? Is it an explosive athlete, or is it maybe not an athlete, a health and fitness minded? Maybe it's someone recovering from some sort of health issue, sickness, illness, or something. So typically we do tend to front load our day. Why is that? Because we try and eat carbohydrates when we're more carbohydrate depleted. Mm-hmm. We avoid carbohydrates when we are carbohydrate fulfilled. So as our day goes on, we typically eat less carbohydrates outside of maybe a post-workout window. We could argue first meal of the day or immediately post-workout is the best time to consume carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's more individual dependent than time of day dependent. But we tend to taper for most people that are trying to maintain their current level of leanness or improve their level of leanness. If you're trying to lean out, we will start to pull carbohydrates back later in the day to build more of it's really to build more of a deficit than anything else. Mm-hmm. And then with our drug-free athletes, it's to try and optimize the opportunity for growth hormone production and just optimal hormone production. And it's probably negligible in many. Mm-hmm. And we're honest enough to say that, but what we're doing is we're doing the best that we can to cultivate the environment for the body to operate as it was intended. Mm-hmm. We're removing that big insulin burst away from 7 to 9 p.m. at night when you go to bed at 10 to create the optimal state for your hormones to be secreted the way and in the manner that they're supposed to.
Yeah, and you hit a key point. A lot of people might preach a similar method, but without hitting on the very important point that you touched on, which is if I have an insulin spike at night, my normal human growth hormone spike is either going to be blunted entirely or less effective. And that's why people who have been on supplemental human growth hormone are told, make sure, when you do your shot, you don't eat anything within 45 minutes to an hour because an insulin spike will completely nullify the HCG that you just put into your body or HGH that you just put into your body. And that's especially for athletes that at night when they're asleep, that's their rebuilding time. That's when they're recovering from that day's training to get ready for the next day's training. They need that human growth hormone to do its job. And if they're eating a heavy carb load right before going to bed, they're not going to get that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think about this? And I have never heard you talk about this before, although you may have, and I apologize if I've missed it. Lately, I get asked more and more and more about intermittent fasting. What's your opinion on that?
Well, intermittent fasting is an interesting conversation, and many of the fitness celebrities, and I'm putting air quotes when I use that term, they're simply jumping from counting macros to paleo to keto to intermittent fasting to exclusionary as a means to differentiate themselves, their brand, their newest product or service. Mm-hmm. So when you hear anyone talking about any quote fitness professionals where this is where they make their money, I say go back 6 months in 6-month intervals. Mm-hmm. And look at what they were selling every 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. You'll see the vast majority of them, I'm not using names, I'm selling out the industry. Mm-hmm. To protect the consumer, you'll see how quick they jump ship and they use the same marketing and sales techniques. This is the best thing ever. This is exactly what I use. This is how I look like this. Look at what Sheila did to lose X amount of pounds. Right. It's all the same, just with a new point of differentiation. That being said, fasting is simply not overeating. Let's start there. So we get 2/3 of the civilized population essentially who are overweight or obese or morbidly obese. Right. They have all sorts of health issues as a result of overconsumption. And then this thing called fasting comes along. It comes along every 8 years or so, these fads cycle through. But anyway, so this comes along. You remember fasting was, Ori Hofmeckler's warrior diet. That was, 10, 12 years or so ago. And there was other offshoots of that. He just happened to be the Laurent Cordain of that time. like Mauro Di Pasquale. Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale was the keto guru essentially of the 90s.
Right.
That whole series. It's rinse and repeat with this stuff. And I'm old enough now, which is good or not, to have seen it. The third, maybe fourth, version of this. So again, intermittent fasting is basically calorie reduction. You eat 3,000. Joe eats 3,000 calories a day. Now he's quote fasting 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day. So instead of 3,000, he's only eating 26 or 22 because he spread his calories out over 3 meals or 5 meals, and now he's eating 20% or 40% less. Therefore, his calories are simply dropped. That's why most people see, and I personally talk to over 1,000 people a year. I typically do 4 consultations per day, 5 days per week. My team does other consultations. This is me on the phone talking to a regular person for 30 minutes. Part of the services that we offer, and I only say that because that allows me to understand what's really happening, what real people are going through, not what these idiot YouTubers and fitness quote professionals are trying to sell. I talk to people every day in my facilities. I talk to people every day in gyms and everywhere I go. I understand everything all around the world. People in Budapest are having the same issues as people in Beverly Hills. Same fucking issues, same problems, same wife issue, husband issue, same culture, same boss problem, same lack of, I can't find quinoa or hemp or whatever it is in the terrain. It's all the same bullshit. And I say that with respect because it's an easy answer for everybody. Right. Time-restricted, intermittent fasting, yeah, that's all fine and nice, but it goes back to number 1, which is being accountable. Number 2, me fasting, I'm fucking 206 pounds of sexy steel over here. How can I intermittent fast and get all the raw materials I need to be consumed, to be digested, to be absorbed in a 6-hour eating window, in a 1 meal per day, like many of the people now are talking about? 1 meal per day fast. Oh, I fast 22 hours a day. I fast 20 hours a day. And that's really where the fasting community is. They're bouncing between 6 and 8 hours or so to be truly fasting, or fasting multiple days in a row on these water fasts and things like that. What happens? You become nutritionally deficient. You cannot consume the raw materials to continue building and repairing this highly complex biological organism that we are as human beings. There's so much shit happening right now. There's so much shit happening right now, and you are fucking your body up constantly. You need vital raw materials in constant supply. And if all of a sudden now you're only eating between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. because some fucking sexy girl in a G-string on Instagram has sold you a product for $99 because that's, quote, how she did it, you're fucked up. You're fucking your body up. So that's what I really think. Being mindful of your food, yes. Being intentional with what you consume, yes. Quote, fasting. What is fasting? I sleep 8 hours per night, sometimes 9. I typically don't eat 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed. If I don't eat 3 hours before I go to bed, I have my dinner at 7. I'm done at 7. I put the plate down. I go to bed at 10 p.m. That's 3 hours I fasted. I wake up at 6 a.m. That's 11 hours I fasted. I grab my girls. I walk out the front door. I go for an hour walk. Lift, low-intensity, steady-state interval training while fasted in the absence of insulin. That's kind of how I start my day. That's a 12-hour-plus fast right there. So, quote, I'm technically fasting too, but no, I'm not. I'm not fucking selling anything here. I'm just living a normal life. So that's where I get kind of pissed off and as vocal and animated for those listening right now, so they understand there's no magic. There's no keto magic. There's no fasting magic. There's no fucking Dolce magic. You have to live your life like you're fucking not a dickhead, right? Live your fucking life, eat real food with great variety based upon your activity. Stay away from all the synthetics. Don't starve yourself. Don't over fucking feed yourself. And you know when you're fucking up. You know when you're being a fat fuck. You know when you're being a dickhead. You know when you're being a whiny little pussy. So we get rid of that stuff, and then we just start eating normally. You wake up, and you do have your oat bran and your flax and your chia seeds and your blueberries, your strawberries, your raisins, your bananas, your almond butter, your coconut flake. You do start your day with that. You do have your eggs on your sprouted grain bread with some turkey bacon and sliced avocado with a pear on the side for lunch. You do have your quinoa pasta with grass-fed beef or wild-caught venison, mixed into your sauce for dinner. That's how you should be living your life, micronutrient dense of a wide variety of earth-grown foods. Notice I didn't say anything about calories. I didn't say only eat at certain times during the day. Well, you got to avoid a complete macronutrient group. You got to avoid that or you're going to get cancer and fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how it works. And it sucks that almost nobody in the fitness industry is talking like this, because this is not, and you're a doctor. You know better than fucking everybody because you see the worst of the worst. What do people really need?
People need to not eat processed food, and people need to exercise and drink more water. That's basically it.
Bingo, right? Eat real food,
Yeah.
move their body based upon their ability and their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Man, go to grandma aerobics at the local YMCA. Fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Go fight kumite,
Yeah.
if you want to. Awesome. Just fucking move your body for, 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. Kick it up a little bit more if you want to. Love your neighbors, smile at your family, open doors for people.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep. That's all you got to do.
Just be a mensch, as Ben Shapiro likes to say. If more people
Just
would
be
do
a
it,
mensch. Exactly.
we need to live in a better world. What do you, I'm going to...
His wife is a doctor, you might have heard.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
I thought you heard that.
One other thing I want to ask you about, because this has come up a lot lately. I've been asked about it, and it's not in my wheelhouse to have any expertise. It's come up a couple of times specifically on Rogan's podcast, so I know you probably heard about it.
Sure.
The carnivore diet.
Yeah.
What?
It's silly.
Yeah, it doesn't. I understand. Jordan Peterson talks about it at length. I just recently saw something come out just a couple of days ago that they said they think most of the benefit that people are actually getting from it is actually that it inevitably becomes caloric restriction because it's just so hard to eat that much meat.
Which I agree. And
Yeah.
with Jordan Peterson, I love Dr. Jordan Peterson. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wants to listen to me start talking about psychology of young boys. Right.
Right.
I don't think he really cares, and I'm not qualified to talk about it, though I was a young boy myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, love Dr. Peterson, but I don't think this is his realm to really discuss, and I say that with respect. I'm happy that he's seeing positive benefit, but with him, man, he's living a high-stress lifestyle, traveling, airplanes, planes, trains, and automobiles, eating like shit, digestive problems.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to get a culture and see what's going on inside there. He's probably got all sorts of biochemical issues happening as a result of his high stress life.
Mm-hmm.
And the carnivore diet, we'll just jump into that. So what is the point of the carnivore diet? Only eat meat? Well, what kind of meat? All meat. I'm the man. Right? I'm the ruler. That's the fucking attitude with this carnivore diet thing. They're not talking about wild game.
No, they're
right?
eating,
they're
a lot of them are eating 3 corn-fed Iowa steaks a day.
Right?
Yeah.
And beef jerky, like
Mm-hmm.
Slim Jims, all the worst garbage food you've ever thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And smart people are acting like this is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this again, it's a fucking sham. Does that mean animal protein's bad? No, of course not. I eat animal protein almost every day, but when I do, I eat 4 ounces at a time. And everybody's fucking seen me. You can come train with me. You can try and keep up with me. I'm typically stronger and leaner and faster and better endurance. I'm no super athlete, but I train with fucking super athletes. It's fucking 4 ounces at a time. When my wife and I go grab a steak, we'll get the princess cut and we'll split it. I'm a fucking real man. Right? I triple body weight fucking deadlift any day of the week. I'm a real, so me saying that, I only say that to prove the fucking point. You don't need to eat 16 ounces of fucking steak to get your dick hard, or to build a fucking muscle, or to get, stronger pecs. It's bullshit. It's this fucking ego bravado,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't have any basis in science.
Mm-hmm.
And there, and Sean Baker, he's most popular for it. I don't know him well, so I have nothing good or bad to say. But I completely disagree, and he resorts, in my opinion, to theatrics, and he has a following because of that, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when the community talks about what is really best, nobody can tell me that blueberries are bad for you. And I've put this out. And I've invited some of the top names in the keto, carnivore, whole world side.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, come on my podcast, or I'll go on yours. Can you explain to me why I can't eat a cup of blueberries per day, which has approximately 20 grams of carbohydrates?
Mm-hmm.
I can't eat that on the keto diet. I can't eat that on the carnivore diet because I'm somehow going to get back pain and the inflammation, or I'm going to somehow now get cancer, as the keto people say, because it's sugar?
Mm-hmm.
You fucking kidding me? More studies have been done on the anti-cancer effects of blueberries than the ketogenic diet by far.
Mm-hmm.
By far, all of science supports the healthy benefit of blueberries. So where is this? And you could see when I bring up things like this, it's clearly a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either intentional or unintentional. They just don't know because they didn't do the research to figure it out, which means they're not qualified to give people any advice, or they do know and they're hiding this information from the population, which also means they're not qualified to give people health and fitness advice.
Right. And you illustrated a very important shortcut that people take is that they transition to one of these forms of eating, but they still bring all their baggage with them. They still bring all their bad habits. And you illustrated it in the form of that 16-ounce steak. When I was in medical school, the former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop came and gave a talk, and he noted that over a 50-year period, drinking glasses, wine glasses, and dinner plates had tripled in size. Yeah. That movie theaters, there used to be one size of popcorn, one size. Now there's 4 sizes of popcorns, and what used to be the large popcorn is the small individual popcorn. And this is the point that we have gotten to, that we think all these big servings are so important. And I'm with you. I always order the smallest cut of steak on the menu, just because I have always been a person, even when my weight has been above where I like it, I'm always a person that eats smaller portions just because that's the way I am. And I look at some of these monster cuts of meat or monster portions of whatever it is, pasta, tacos, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know how somebody can shovel that's literally coming to you on what 50 years ago would have been a serving platter, but is now a dinner plate. And that's the problem, is people have gotten into this mind. We've got that's the only thing, most of what was in that documentary, Super Size Me, was debunked. And nobody was ever able to reproduce his efforts. But just the title of that movie illustrates the very important point that, bigger is not always better. You don't need a 32-ounce soda. You don't need double fries, and really you don't need any of that processed food. But people have we've gotten crazy, and it's because these people want your business. So if I can sell you something that looks twice as big as what the guy next to me is selling, and maybe just a little bit more money, you feel like you're getting more out of it. So you're going to come back to me with your business, and that's doing people a great disservice. I know, Mike, you've been very generous with your time and put out a lot of great information. I know your time is valuable and limited, so I want to ask you one more question before we get to information about where people can find you and what you have going on. You talk about, and I've heard you talk about this before, and I love your phraseology. You don't call it a cheat meal. You call it an earned meal. And I think that's the way that people need to think about it, is what have you done to earn this? Because the rewards are on the other side of hard work. You don't just get rewarded just for showing up. It's not a participation trophy. You got to do something for it. When you think about when you talk about that, the earned meal, illustrate your philosophy on that, and what's a good? Is it a time interval? Is it a goal interval? How often is that something somebody should reward themselves with?
Well, the earned meal would be specific to the individual, and we don't believe in cheat meals. That has a negative connotation.
It does.
And I ask, are you allowed to cheat on your wife? Would it be cool if you cheated playing poker with your buddies? No, you're getting shot in both situations. Right? It's just not going down. Why can you cheat on your health? Mm-hmm. Why can you cheat on yourself? That makes no sense. And it films a negative connotation when people are like, well, it's cheat day. Like, I can be bad today. I can hurt myself today. Like, I can lose sight of my goals today. That's what you're saying. That's what you're doing. And most people don't have the awareness to see that because it's never been presented to them like that. And that's fine. But now that it has, they know. they cheat. If you're cheating on yourself, you're cheating on your goals, you're eradicating any of the good work that you've done, but also you are keeping yourself in that prison of never making progress. What we do is we say we have an earned meal. What is an earned meal? An earned meal is a celebration for achieving a specific goal. Now, what is that goal? Well, that's specific to you. Maybe to you, it's walking for 15 minutes every day for the next 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to wake up, you're going to put on your little shoes, and you're going to walk 15 minutes around your block and come home. You get an earned meal at the end of that because you haven't walked 15 minutes in the last, 3 months combined. High five. What's your next earned meal going to be set for? Now, there is a little bit that we put on it. The earned meals can never be any more than 10 days apart or any closer than 10 days.
Okay.
Because most people do the Sunday fun day once a week thing. What does that mean? Now, so one bad meal can set you back 3 full days of perfect living. One bad meal will set you back 3 full days. So all Monday, all Tuesday, all Wednesday can be blown away by having wings and drinks on Thursday night. That's the real of it. And then you got to start all the way back over from zero again. You do it 2 different meals, 2 days in a row, a full day in itself, you can easily wipe away a whole week. You don't believe me? Look in the mirror. Look at your family, look at your friends, look at your coworkers, look at your local gym. The same people on the same machines with the same weights, with the same bodies, year after year after year, because they do the same bullshit. They don't go anywhere. So we say minimum every 10 days. Eventually, it becomes once a month. After a while, it becomes pretty much never, because there's no crave. At my level, I have no craving. There's nothing I want. Burgers? Yeah, I'm going to make some kick-ass fucking burgers here in my house that you would spend $30 for at any fancy restaurant. You would easily pay me $30 to have one of my hamburgers and my baked sweet potato fries with sprinkled honey and drizzled raw local honey. Holy shit, it's fucking amazing. If Gordon Ramsay walked out of my kitchen, you would be like, yeah, of course Gordon made this. And I'm a caveman like you, Doc. I'm a fucking idiot, right? I damn near burned my house down. But I can whip this stuff together, and that's what it's made for. That's the point of it. Kind of lost track on that piece. So talking about the food, it pulled me back in.
No, that was another thing that I heard you say when Joe interviewed is about the earned meal. Is the earned meal also is not a license to eat shit.
Yep.
It's a nice lean grass-fed steak, a grass-fed burger. You're not going completely off the reservation on this and mainlining grease and sugar.
And what we do say, and if that's what you want to do it. But we say you have a 4-hour window. Your earned meal can last no more than 4 hours. 4 hours, you should be able to get out whatever you got to get out, whatever demons are lurking inside of you. And usually this happens in the first phase. When people start working with us, it's a lifestyle change. We help them change your lifestyle, but we understand it's a process. Let's pick the date. It's all right. It's your wedding anniversary, your kid's birthday, Labor Day. Cool. That's going to be the date. During that date, Uncle Jesse's gotten a barbecue. All right. 10 to 2. Perfect. That's your earned meal. For the next 26 days, we're going to fucking work our nuts off to be ready to hit goals, to be in the gym every day, to follow the meal plan as it's meant to be down 10 pounds or hit, the time cap on the rowing machine. We're going to crush that goal. We're going to earn it. When we earn it, then we can have the earned meal. We can have the potato salad and the grape soda, whatever it is. And guess what? It's going to make you feel like shit. You're going to feel so fucking nasty partway through. You're going to feel disgusting the next day. Your bowel movement's going to be gross. You're going to be sick with yourself. Your next earned meal, you might do half. You might eat half the quantity with half as bad foods. The third earned meal, you're probably only going to eat your normal dinner and maybe a piece of cheesecake or a dessert. Your next earned meal, you might even forget about it. 97+% of the people we work with, that's pretty much the MO of how it goes. Disgusting slob, first earned meal, learn their lesson, second earned meal, pretty much just at the dessert, third earned meal, and then it becomes like months apart.
Love it.
And now they're no longer cheating on themselves. They're no longer, lashing themselves. There's no more negative self-loathing associated with the cheat meal.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Great. Dude, these are pearls. I know my listeners are going to be all over these. Where can people, what do you have going on currently? And where can people find you, your website, social media, everywhere else?
Well, right now, over the last 2 years, we've focused on building the most comprehensive online personalized nutrition and exercise program at thedolcediet.com. 4-week or 12-week program, literally the exact same science we use to get the world's greatest athletes on weight and in shape for weight class dominated sport, UFC, Olympics, and NCAAs, all that great stuff. The same exact science that we've developed over the last 20 years with a 100% success ratio in doing our job. Nobody else can claim that, which is an honor, but we definitely do point it out that there's a reason. It's because the science behind our nutrition is stellar. There is nothing better. And thedolcediet.com is the number one most successful healthy weight loss program ever devised. Simple, it's easy, it's effective. Every meal, every recipe, every ingredient, every workout, every set, every rep is there for you on your tablet, on your mobile, on your laptop, everywhere you go. Customer support team, like all the bells and whistles that you would expect, and we're always making it better. We're always updating it. That's all there. That's available. So that was important to us over the last 2 years, simply because we realized people need a solution, and this is all real food. It's nothing exclusionary. That's the beauty of it. It's a Trojan horse. We say, you know, lose 21 pounds in 21 days on 3 weeks to Shredded, the 4-week program. You get a bonus week. Awesome. Guess what? You're going to be sexy, and you're going to be having all sorts of consensual sex, and, you know, whatever it is, whatever you're motivated, you're going to win the competition, or whatever your thing is, whatever motivates you. Cool. That's our Trojan horse, because we are going to trick you into eating properly. We're going to trick you into learning how to eat properly for the rest of your life, that you don't need us anymore. We give you over 200 additional recipes that you can just plug and place into your breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, pre-workout, post-workout, smoothie, dessert option. So you have all that sitting there. You don't have to follow you're not following a program anymore. We're teaching people how to eat for the rest of their life. And that's all at thedolcediet.com. That's been a big focus for us. And from there, man, I'm just taking care of my family, you know, living life, trying to be very present as a dad. I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So we really reorganized our life. We bought a house on the beach in New Jersey. And, you know, every day I wake up, I hang out with my kids and, you know, just kind of do this thing, still work like a madman, you know, in a very atypical style. But it's all about the family, man.
Good stuff.
And community, you know, just being a good member of my community, and you know, just trying to reach out and be a good neighbor and all that fun stuff.
Well, Mike, you certainly are. I mean, you're really giving back on a global scale, because we do have a global epidemic with the way people eat. And I think you setting that example for lifestyle change and getting the word out there, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on today. I'm going to have links to Mike's website and all of his social media in the show notes. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you do what I did and buy his book either at his website or at Amazon.com. I hope I can have you on again someday. I think we've just scratched the surface. I'd love to go down each and every dietary rabbit hole with you at some point in the future.
I love it. Thank you. Big fan of you and all of your work and just everything that you were about. You know, your voice. You know, definitely love what you say, and I stand behind you. Love your show. Of course, love being a fan and a member of your audience, and you just kind of being a part of the crew here. And I would love to come back on. So if everybody listening, maybe they have some questions, maybe we mentioned something that we didn't really bring to light, or something that we didn't even touch on. Whatever you or the audience wants to hear, I'm welcome to come back. And you know, if you want to do an hour or even more next time, let's get down. I'm happy to get down. This is such a good time. Let's
do it. Or if we're in the same zip code sometime, hopefully we can do it. Sit down in the studio together and do it.
Yeah, Vegas or now we got 2 spots, Vegas or Jersey.
Yeah.
You know, so one or the other. I'm sure we'll bump in. So we'll talk offline.
We will.
Definitely set it up.
We will make it happen, my brother. Everybody, today I'm going to close with a quote from the philosopher Maimonides. Sorry, I said that wrong. I'm going to try one more time. Close from the philosopher Maimonides. And I know Mike will appreciate this, because this very wise man said, "No disease that can be treated by diet should be treated with any other means." Remember that, everybody. Eat right, live right, and until next time, be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to The Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/sheepdog response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.